What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one I want to break down what's going on with Tesla, SPY, Nvidia, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I want to break down what's happening with the overall market as far as we have some very important data coming out for the next couple of days, what's going on with the economic calendar for tomorrow specifically, and what the charts are suggesting moving forward. But before I break into devil's information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. I am personally not a financial planner. Take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo, the link down below, and deposit $100 into the account, you are guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000, you are guaranteed up to 15 free stocks, and the offer ends very, very soon in just about 24 hours. Anyways, now let's talk about what's happening with the market. Looking at SPY, we saw this thing break the all-time high on Thursday before coming down just a bit. And we're still holding above our hourly 20 EMA, but the question is, will we continue to pump from here, or is the market about to see some interesting volatility? I'll be giving you guys some more context about this in just a couple of minutes, but let's first talk about some data. So for tomorrow, it's going to be Monday, April 1st, the start of Q2, and we're going to start things on a very, very interesting note. 15 minutes after the market opens, we have the S&P Global Manufacturing PMI coming out. This is going to be very important for not just manufacturing data, but understanding how this entire sector is doing for the economy. And then 30 minutes after the market opens at 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time, watch for some more volatility because we have more ISM manufacturing numbers and also more data on new orders and prices. Now, what's very important is the manufacturing prices data is going to be important for inflationary data. And then the new orders is important because it's very forward looking. So it's going to give us more insights about how things are looking for the future. And this is going to cause more volatility as well. So just look for more volatility. You don't have to know like every detail about this. Just look for volatility 15 minutes and 30 minutes after the market opens. I do believe we're going to see some interesting moves. Then at 11:30 a.m. we have the bill auctions, which tends to not be that crazy. So the main time is going to be 15 minutes and 30 minutes after market open tomorrow. Look for some volatility. Here are the earnings for the week. It's all very, very minor. I'm not going to talk about any of these. We do have BlackBerry and Levi's though, but nothing is like so significant to the point where it's going to really affect the market a whole lot. So for now, things are kind of slow for earnings, but they will get very serious in just a couple of weeks once we start the Q2 cycle. Now, I want to remind everyone that on Friday, Jerome Powell gave a speech and he said some very positive things, which could still cause the market to pop a little here and there. I'm not saying it's going to be a crazy, crazy move though compared to like an FOMC meeting because Jerome Powell was speaking on Friday. That's kind of like over now, and the weekend just went by, so the reaction might not be that insane, but we could get somewhat of a reaction still on Monday nonetheless. So what happened with Jerome Powell? He did say some very, very dovish things. Most of what he said was kind of ambiguous, kind of in the middle, nothing too insane, but some things he did say were a little bit on the more dovish side. So what did he say? He first said that PCE came in line with the expectations, which is quite good. February was actually along the lines of what they wanted to see. Reducing rates too soon would be very disruptive. And he also said that the economy is strong. There's no hurry to cut rates. So that's actually quite positive. That was like more on the dovish side. But at the same time, he said the Fed has to be patient, not be too fast, not be too slow. But he said there's no hurry to cut rates, which is a big sign, and also that the economy is strong. So those things have been a little bit more positive. I would say that he was a bit more on the dovish side, if anything. I wouldn't say he was as dovish as what we saw during like FOMC, because in this case, he was just trying to be a little bit more indifferent, but still, that's still more positive and it could cause a little pop in the markets. Besides that, though, let me just call out that the fear and greed index is still approaching that extreme greed. We're getting very close to it. We might even just touch this on Monday before we try to shift back, possibly. Things are still at extreme greed in terms of like momentum and stuff like that. But looking at the put and call positioning, this is starting to drop a bit as we're seeing buyers stepping in back into the markets. We're starting to see some puts being closed, dropping the ratio just a little bit. So one thing I noticed was a very interesting trend on Thursday, where we started to see a lot of these puts being either closed or just being held, at least on SPY and some other ETFs out there. And then for the whole market as a whole, that happened. And I started to see more call buying that just ended up happening, which is what helped the market kind of hold up the way it did. So the call buying ended up increasing just a little bit. That's part of why this ratio is dropping. And we'll see if new orders end up affecting this more. Because if this thing gets like a little drop here and starts rebounding a bit off this like previous area, this zero point 0.7 area, if we see a big rebound and starts pushing towards 1, that would be a lot more bearish for the markets. We're not really doing that yet. We're still a little indecisive, so I'm still waiting. Same thing with the VIX. Now, the VIX is kind of risky because it's approaching the key supports where it tends to bounce kind of sharply. So there might be a bounce coming to the VIX in the future over the next couple of weeks. Once it comes, it'll be because of the market possibly cooling off a bit, but we're not really there yet. So I'd say it's best to just be patient and give this some more time. Besides that, that's it for all the main data. Let me just remind everyone that for this week, we have some very important data coming out. Tesla is expected to report its first quarter deliveries for Tuesday, April 2nd. So expect some crazy volatility on Tuesday. That's going to be huge as well. And we also have some Chinese stocks possibly going to make some big moves because a lot of the EVs are announcing their deliveries. They're going to be doing their reports on a Monday, by the way. So if you're interested in like Neo, Li Auto, Xpeng, even BYD, look for some more data on Monday/Tuesday, mainly Monday for the smaller ones. And for the big ones like BYD and Tesla, it may be closer to Tuesday. Tesla's will be specifically on Tuesday, though. That's different. So get ready for that. That's going to be huge, causing some very, very big volatility. So what do I see on the SPY chart? Honestly, guys, so far this chart is on an uptrend. It's still favoring the bulls. Even if it comes all the way down to 522, we could still be on a very, very strong uptrend. The chart is still bullish. But let me talk about what I think could happen intraday. So with Jerome Powell's speech, I wouldn't be surprised if there's another liquidity grab. And I think that it's very probable that that could happen before we see this thing kind of turn. So I personally think that the most likely possibility is we get a retest of our trend line. So I see this trend line getting retested, and we're going to be watching to see what the reaction is. Watch this zone right here at 523. If we do continue to push, watch 524 is very, very strong resistance and 525 above that. If we start sinking, watch 522. If we lose that, very close to where our 50 EMA is going to be. If we lose that, we could be coming all the way back down to about 520. So you want to be very, very careful at 522. What do I think is going to happen? I think that in the morning, thanks to Jerome Powell or whatever, we could see a little pop here. We could even try to retest this resistance, and we'll see if we try to break the all-time high again before we come down or not. But look for a little pop first, then we might see a move back down to retest this trend line, and we'll have to see what the reaction is. Do we hold the trend line? Do we end up losing it like this? We'll have to just watch from that part. But I do see a retest of this area. I think that it's very probable that we end up holding this. And if we do end up keeping this high right here, see this high right here around this mid 524 area, we could then take a Fibonacci retracement chart and find our 0.618 retracement. I'm going to do that after if this high holds. So I'm going to be watching for that as well. Then we can see some key retracement levels. But it all depends on if this high holds. If we do kind of like pop higher, that's also another possibility. But for now, look for a little pop upon open, maybe even off the data, we pop a bit. And then SPY might actually slow down a little bit and make its way down towards the end of the day, towards this trend line. And we'll have to see if that holds or not. Now, SPY is still showing strength. And let me also add one more thing about it, actually. This could also be a possible cup and handle that's forming. So even if we do come all the way down to like 520 and then we try to bounce back up, it could still be forming a cup and handle. To turn bearish, you want to see this thing basically lose like 519, 518 around there. Then we can really turn bearish. We're not there yet. So just watch and see this test for now, and we'll see how things go. Anyways, going back to the triple Q is not looking that great to me because the issue is this is downtrending. It's quite clearly downtrending right here. You guys can see it's been just making lower highs and lower lows. So this high was here, it came down, made a lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, and it could be making a lower low again. So I'm seeing some weakness on this chart. It's heavily dictated by Nvidia specifically. I do see this kind of contracting a little bit. So similar to SPY, I see something similar happening. We have this channel that it's been stuck in. I think that there's a very good chance it's going to re-enter it. So I think that we're going to be watching resistance firstly around 444.5 to 445. If we break that, watch 446, 446.8, and eventually 448. For support, we're going to be watching where this trend line happens to be around this 443 zone, depending on the timing. And if we lose this, there's 442, followed by 440.5, or around that area. So I believe personally that this might get a little pop and a drop, like move back into this trend line area, back down to 442, or it could even just sink from here down to lower levels. Don't forget that Tesla can have a big effect on this and the whole market on Tuesday. If Tesla makes a massive move, if there's big news that comes out, this could affect different sectors because it involves like Chinese sales, and that's a very, very big component in Tesla. So that's going to be a big factor as well. So I think we're going to likely see a little pop, an attempt to hold up, and we might just continue to decline right here, get closer to 442. I see a downtrend being established right now. It's slowing down. So watch for that very carefully, guys. There is a risk of this falling a bit more. On top of that, if you want to look at Tesla, I know a lot of people are going to be eyeing Tesla. How does the chart look to me? Well, honestly, guys, do not solely trade based off the chart for deliveries. Always remember that, okay? but deliveries don't come out on Monday, they come out on Tuesday. What's happening for Monday? As of right now, I see something similar happening to Tesla. So Tesla loves to pop and drop in the morning. That's like the thing it's been doing. So let me show you. Basically, if you look at Friday, March 22nd, we popped and then traded sideways. If you look at Monday, March 25th, it popped and traded sideways a bit. Look at the last 4 days of Tesla. It popped and dropped, popped, dropped, popped, and traded sideways. It pushed a little bit, then started sinking again. And now it's actually been establishing this little downtrend right here. So we had this high here, lower high, and then we also broke this structure right over here. So the chart's looking kind of weak, especially considering that we have this gap down here. So I think that because deliveries are not really that, deliveries expectations are not really that strong. People are expecting Tesla to not do too well. It's no surprise, no secret. I'm not really expecting this thing to run very hard approaching deliveries. Typically, it loves to do that, but in this case, probably not. I'm going to be watching resistance at 177.6, very close to our 50 EMA, and then 180 above that. For support, watch 175. If we lose this, there's some support at 173.8, which is where we have this first gap. And then if we lose that, watch 172, eventually low levels like 168. I don't think we're going to hold 170 if we lose 172. If it loses 172, I think it's going to come all the way down to 168, by the way. So make sure you're prepared for that. We do have a minor support at 170. So what do I think the chart's going to do? It's very simple, guys. I think that Tesla will most likely, okay, pop a little bit when we open, could retest 177 or so, grab liquidity, start slowing down, and then eventually make its way down to fill this gap around 173.8 and get close to 172 before coming back up. So I see a little decline coming approaching deliveries. I don't think that investors are that optimistic, that excited, so it might kind of drop a little bit. So just be prepared for that. If you are a Tesla investor or trader, make sure you're ready. How about Aapl? How is Apple stock looking? Well, honestly, guys, with the news that came out involving, the DOJ getting in the way of Apple and their declining Chinese sales, there's been a lot of talk about that. We'll have to see how things look for their reports coming out. But as of right now, Apple's on a downtrend, right? We had this high right here. We came down, made a lower high, and we're just continuing to fall. There's also been another investigation opened against them in Europe. So it's pretty insane what's going on with Apple. I would say that watch resistance on 172.5. If we try to hold above 172.8, we could turn back to bullish if we could close above 172.8, our 200 EMA. If we're bearish, want to see this thing basically lose 170 flat. If we lose this, a bigger decline could be coming. I personally think that the chart's looking a bit more bearish though, because when you zoom out, it's been continuing to decline slowly. It's trying to base though at like 169, but it's not looking that strong. So I think for tomorrow, just like SPY, we're going to be looking for a liquidity grab. Don't forget the news also affects it, but I think it's going to grab liquidity again close to our 200 EMA, test 172.5, eventually make our way back down lower and start sinking towards 170. And it may just continue to decline a bit more depending on the news, but I do see a little like pop and drop and a little decline to continue from this point. So I find that to be very, very probable. For Nvidia, I'm going to remain in the middle because Nvidia loves to move on its own. The reason I say that is because it's very indecisive right now. It came down pretty hard because of some bearish news and also because of other things. And now we have a range. 892 is our key support. 908 is going to be our resistance. Whichever way it breaks will cause a bigger move. For almost 2 days, it's been stuck in this range. So instead of trying to predict, I'm just going to wait for this. If we break past 908 and start pushing, look for a move all the way up to about 920 plus. And if we end up losing 892, we could be sinking all the way down to 885, if not 877. So I'm thinking that it might try to retest 908, then come back down, but we'll have to see which way it breaks. I do worry it might drop a little bit lower, so just be careful. But I'm going to be watching this just to be safe. I would recommend that to be like your best advantage over this. I would say that trying to predict it is kind of tricky right now, and we'll see which way it breaks. That's going to have a big effect on the QQQ as well. But just know there is a risk of downside later on. For Palantir, I'm going to switch over my strategy just a little bit. So I like to look at bigger time frames for these other ones because this will give you a better idea of the trend. So for what I'm seeing on Palantir, okay, this chart is looking a bit more bearish to me because the first factor is the fact that we have a double top structure right here, and we're going to be testing our 22.7 area. So I do see a test coming down. If we hold 22.7, it's going to try to rebound to 23.75. If we kind of hold here and then just continue to sink later, a bigger decline is coming to 22 flats and eventually lower levels. There is a head and shoulders like structure, and I could see this dipping all the way down to like 22 flats. So I favor that what's going to happen is it might test this support right here where this 200 EMA is, rebound a bit, and then continue to sink lower. as this is looking a little bit more bearish. So it looks a bit more bearish to me for another continuation down. We also have something very similar developing on super micro. It's been on a bit of a downtrend here. Now we're kind of stuck on the hourly time frame at some key levels. So super micro has resistance at 1020. If we break that, watch 1050 and eventually 1100 above that. For support, you're going to be watching basically around 980 right about here. This is very close to where it bounced before, like 985. If we lose that, we're going to be coming all the way down to the lower channel, down towards 940. I think it's going to be heavily dictated by Nvidia, but as of right now, we're fighting this tough resistance and we're kind of range bound. So watch and see, do we break past the 1020 area and start pushing higher, or do we end up losing the support very close to this like 980 area to start sinking lower? I'm in the middle with this. It's just kind of stuck in range bound. It's been like this for almost 2 days. Just give it some time and we'll see which way it breaks. For Rivian, in my opinion, is not looking that great. So one thing that's worth noting about Rivian is the EV sales are going to have a big effect on it. Even Tesla's going to have a big effect on it. So I think that that's going to cause a big move. As of right now, we're seeing some weakness on our 4 hour, and I think that there is a risk of this declining a little bit. It depends on if we could hold 10.94 or not. We're at support right now. If we bounce off this, watch 11.18 to about 11.5 is resistance. If we lose 10.94, look for a move all the way down towards 10.6. So I do favor this coming down a little bit. I think Rivian's not looking the strongest. So just be careful, guys. I could see a little decline coming with Tesla. And then after Tesla's deliveries comes out, that's going to cause a bigger move as well. For SoFi, let's double check SoFi. This is not looking that strong to me. It's completely boring and range bound, so it's not really strong, not extremely weak. We have support in a very, very tight range. It's basically stuck at support at 7.2. Resistance is all the way up here around 7.5. All day for the last couple of weeks, it's been back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So expect it to just be range bound and see which way it breaks for the time being for bigger moves. But it looks like it's going to be range bound for now. For AMD, I'm seeing potential in AMD to bounce, but we need a confirmation breakout. So our support is at 177. It's trying to hold 177 around that area. And it's been very close to holding it. You could see there was some instances that came below it and then tried to get bought back up. So the bulls are defending 177. But then resistance is right here around the 183 range. So you could see the 50 EMA is kind of like dragging down a little bit. So it's going to be close to 183 by tomorrow. If we could get a clean break of the 50 EMA or close below that on the 4 hour time frame, that's going to be bullish. And this thing could get a nice bounce and move back up to this imbalance towards 190 if we break past 183.78, the 50 EMA. If we fail to do so, we're just range bound for now. And then that's all it's been doing for now. It's been stuck so far. I do see potential for this to actually try to bounce since we're trying to base here. But just to be safe, we'll have to see if we could get that move. So we're still stuck between our support and resistance. I would say the best thing to do is be patient on this and see which way it breaks. I do see potential for this to try to break a little bit higher and try to push, but just to be safe, I would rather just give it time and see if we can get that breakout. Another reason why I say that is because this is resembling a nice accumulation structure. So that could also lead to this break to the upside as long as you don't have too much bad news. So I do see potential in this nonetheless. For ARM is looking a little bit more on the bearish side, especially on the 4 hour time frame. But we're at this support right here. So we're at support right here around 23.5. If we do lose this, look for a move down to about 123.5. If we lose that, watch 120 support. Resistance, watch 130 to 131. So we'll have to see how that goes. I believe that's still kind of stuck in the middle. So I'm going to be a little patient with that. For Coinbase, we're on a bit of an uptrend, but watch support very close to our 50 EMA. We'll have to see if this holds as well. If we lose this support right here, we could start sinking. There's a possible head and shoulders developing on Coinbase, but nothing is guaranteed quite yet. If we break past 272, look for a bigger push higher. And if we get like a little rug pull at 263, if we lose 263, we could be coming all the way down to about 256. So I'm going to be watching this carefully. I do see a possible head and shoulders on Coinbase, so just be a little bit careful, and we'll see how it goes from there. For Amazon, run a bit of an uptrend, but watch resistance. It's very, very tight at 181. Very, very tough resistance up there. And our support is currently at 178 at this yellow 50 EMA. So it looks to me like it's going to go back and forth between those levels, but whichever way we break is going to cause a bigger move. There is a risk of this coming lower if we fail to break 181, so just be careful. Meta is looking a little bit weak. We're on a downtrend, but I do see a falling wedge-like structure. As of right now, we're still bearish. If we lose 485, look for a move all the way down towards 480 flat. I can see 480. It looks bearish. It looks like it's going to sink a little bit more to me, but watch to see if we get a breakout from this wedge later on. If we do get a breakout and we get a reversal, that's going to be our sign of a big break. We're in a bearish structure for now. We are dropping, but it has potential to get a nice bounce if we do get a breakout. We haven't gotten it yet, so as of right now, the chart looks a bit more bearish, so just be careful. And then for Microsoft, we're looking a bit more bearish too. It's been falling as well. It actually closed below. It closed at 420, but we're kind of below that in the after hours. So I'd say the chart looks bearish. I'm going to be looking for a move down towards. If we fail to hold 420, we're going to be likely coming down to about 415. If we try to break past 422.5, we can turn bullish, but I don't favor that. I think that we're more likely to just kind of like continue to sink lower towards 415. So just be careful. So that seems a bit more probable. For the VIX is just kind of flat. It's at some key support around this 12.5 area. Hasn't gotten a bounce yet. We're still kind of stuck on the VIX at this level. So we'll have to see if we get a breakout or not in the future for the next couple of weeks. I think it might get a breakout within the next 2 months, like a big one, meaning the market might get a rug pull within the next couple of months. That doesn't mean it's going to crash. It's a healthy little rug pull before it tries to get bought up again. So I do see something like that happening, and if the VIX getting some nice increases in the future. But right now, I don't see it yet. I don't see it happening right now. So I'm just saying that in the future, it's going to likely happen since we're at a historical level where this does tend to happen within a couple of weeks or within like a month from now. But there's no sign of it happening yet. So I can't really make the call that it's happening now. It may take a couple of weeks, may take another month. But eventually, the VIX is going to get a big spike, and the market will pull back a bit because of where we are on the VIX historically. But we're not ready yet. It's not ready. You guys can see how every time we hit this support, we do tend to see these big bounces. It's going to likely bounce again in the next couple of weeks, within the next month or two. I would say like month and a half. That makes a lot more sense. But we're not ready yet. So it could take a couple of weeks before we get this big spike. So we just have to be patient. As of right now, the trend's kind of indecisive. So we'll have to wait and see. For the dollar, this has been on a very, very nice uptrend. Watch resistance now as we're approaching this 104.5 zone. We're on a very, very nice uptrend, though. We could actually go a little higher. So be a little bit careful on the dollar. This could show weakness for the markets. But nonetheless, I would just be kind of patient. So with that being said, guys, for tomorrow we have some data coming out, but the biggest highlight of the week is going to be Tesla. Tesla's going to make a massive move, so get ready for these deliveries. Let's hope Tesla does well. If they don't do well, which is what most analysts are expecting because of the current demand issues in China and also across Europe, then I just see this as another opportunity to buy more Tesla shares for cheap. So it's not the end of the world, guys. I'm going to be positive and optimistic no matter what. Thank you all so much for listening. I hope you guys have a great day. Enjoy your Easter Sunday, and I'll see you guys very soon tomorrow. Thank you for listening, and peace out.